course it is.
It says we're recording in progress. So here we go then, with a pod full of Saints on Tuesday, the 17th of September, 2024. Slick start straight in there. That's all because the man in the control tower pulling the right buttons is Jake Ellacott.
Hello, Dave. Hello, Lee. Wow, what a week. It's only taken till mid-September to get a win. Come on.
Oh, is that what
And the man in his converted garden shed pulling the pumps, Lee Wood.
It's my kitchen, you cheeky son. What are you talking about? Anyway, yes. Hello, right. David. Hello, Jacob. Hello, everyone. Marvellous. The insults have already started. Brilliant.
Three smiling faces because we're all at Bloomfields last Saturday. A ground I've been warned about. We'll come on to that later. It was quite nice. So we've got a cracking match to talk about first. Well, as the City Twitter said, what a match. No, it wasn't what a match. It was such a walkover. And Jake will not backtrack. He'll stick with what he said on Saturday. A comment heard so often on Saturday, they are so awful. And they're not talking about us for change. They're talking about Needham Market. I'll let you two go first. I just could not believe how poor they were.
Go on, Lee. Oh, go on, buddy. Go on, mate. Come on.
Hey, no, let's focus on the Saints. We were brilliant, weren't we? We made Needham look terrible. Everything's fine. In reality, I think most of us were about midway through the first half, we're thinking, goodness me, these are the worst team we played this season by far. And it turned out to be that way quite clearly. But we actually scored some goals. And we actually hit the target with some shots. And they went in. And that was the big difference for me on Saturday compared to previous weeks, was we actually had some shots away and they actually went in. So that was a real treat to see. Go on, Lee.
It's been a really big struggle up until now, and there will be struggles ahead after this. Yeah. But what was pleasing about Saturday was that we proved that we can play football. And okay, the quality of opposition wasn't exactly, overwhelming by any stretch. And I thought I was really disappointed with them. Really, really was. But that said, we played some really nice stuff. Okay, and they made it very easy for us. They gave us so much space. There was a change in formation that Nobby alluded to on his post-match. That helped. It really gave us that sort of drive to take us forward. The players who have been woefully lacking in form and quality over the past 8 weeks showed up. Yes, Jeffers scored the goals, but if you give him the service, that's what he'll do, because he's a striker, for crying out loud. He missed a couple and he'll do that. But the fact is, he's in those places for him to cause himself a little bit of bother. Look, we have to take this at face value. Tavs, you're absolutely spot on, mate. People around us were saying, is this the right team that we're playing? Because they offered nothing. They were sparse in quality and even more lacking in speed and endeavour to win the game in the first place. I mean, it was a lovely, lovely ground. The people were so welcoming. They really were. And to be honest with you, if I was a home fan and they got served that, then you can see why they've not won any games at home playing the way they have.
Yes, they are a really nice club. I expected more. They've just been promoted at the end of last season. They've won a couple of games. Right, they lost their last one going into this, so they should have had a bit of confidence. But they just didn't put anything together at all. And I think what their Twitter afterwards said, well below par performance. But not what it said in the NLP. It said our first goal was a breakaway. We ignored the 2 or 3 chances we'd already had. But they dominated possession later on when we got our later goals. None of which is true at all, but we're used to absolute donkeys writing for the NLP. How you doing, Jake? But it's funny.
Ignore him, Jake. Ignore him. He's trying for the hard sad, mate. So don't worry about
it. You say players we've been waiting for to stand up finally did it, but I'm not sure they all hit top form. I'd say didn't need to. Gio Rasulo, wonderful goal, similar to the one he got at Leiston, same round of a cup last year. And so it's good to see him now striking, going for goal, and we're not going out wide. We're going for goal. We've got to do more of that. And hopefully Sam Deadfield to keep doing that as well, because he has got a fair old shot on him, although he hasn't got many goals to his credit overall. One player I thought really struggled was Phil Chinadu. His distribution, it was comical. I thought he was playing for Needham. But we've seen him in his first few games. We know he's a decent player. He had a bit of an off day there. But as a team, we were compact. We were in control from start to end. No problems anywhere in that team. Coming on to the Jeffers, we said it, create chances, he will get goals. He put a header over the top early on. You thought, oh no, you're doing it again, Shaun. But then he got that first goal, again a header, and he was linking up so well with those around him. It was like the old Shaun. And we're getting the ball into him. And one-on-one, the second goal I'm talking about, the way he stuck that away, you know he's fair chance he's going to do that. You're not so sure about any of the others doing it. And to see him finish with such a plum was really good. Really, no black marks overall for City. But one wouldn't wish to jump too far ahead and say we've now turned a corner because of the level of the opposition. They were so poor.
Yeah. And look at the games we've got coming up. You know, it was a poor level of opposition, let's say. Needham really disappointed me. And we did look good, and like you said, Dave, these players, they were good, but they weren't amazing. And I know Lee wasn't saying that. It's just we've come from such a low position that the performance on Saturday almost was like another world, because in comparison to what we've been served up so far, but we know the players do have more gears to step through because of the opposition they played on Saturday. But it was good to see them perform like that. And I think the key thing from Saturday is confidence. And we've much needed it. We talked about the Western game. Could we take something from that? And I think we saw in the early stages at Needham that we looked more confident on the ball. We were willing to take a bit more control of the game against an opposition that weren't particularly stepping out to stop us doing it. But again, this just allows us to build something. And it is a little bit of momentum. It's not a turning point. We've got a long way to go in the league. Forget about the cup for a minute. We've got a big gap to already make up. But there's something there that we can just start to build upon, hopefully, with the caveat of we've got hard games coming up.
I'll tell you what I liked about Saturday, fellas, and it was a real plus point for me. We went 2 up, and at the start of the second half, although the second half wasn't our best performance by any stretch, we didn't let them back into it. You know, there was always that sort of temptation just to sit back, soak it up, see out the game. But then what happens is teams that are low on confidence, if you concede one, that's it. Then the old nerves start to sort of set in a little bit. What we did, we were solid enough to keep them out, but then we continued to press when the opportunity arose. And, you know, it would have been 4 or 5, you know, if we had some finishing boots on from other players, but we kept that momentum, we kept that pressure up. And I think it was really enjoyable just to see the players play with a smile on their faces, because I don't believe they've been doing that over the last sort of 6 weeks or so. And yeah, we have got some hard games coming up, boys, but ultimately it's a win. And we don't know when the next one's going to come from. So we're going to enjoy this one. And we did enjoy it. And hopefully it is the catalyst to sort of take that into the league form. But ultimately, it's one step at a time, tentative. I'm not entirely sure we can get away with playing that formation against too many of the better sides in our division. But it's something that Nobby can work on, right? And as Tav says, probably Deadfield thrived in that position. Rasulo got a little bit more freedom. Banton, I think, is still not quite there yet. And Shaun scoring goals. So there's more pluses than not to come out of Saturday. And no, it's not the answer to all of our problems. It doesn't paper over any of the cracks, many of which are large and still gaping. But it's a good start for us to really sort of kick on now, hopefully.
One of you mentioned about confidence we gained possibly from the draw with Western-on-Supermare, and of course the second successive clean sheet. And credit to the defence last Saturday. I don't recall them having 2 chances. The first one, the guy ballooned it up in the air when he was inside a 6-yard box. God knows how he managed that. And the second one, late in the game, a shot outside the box. Michael Johnson saved low to his right. It's the only save he had to make all day. So that's good. In defence of Needham, it's got to be said, they didn't get promoted last season by being a bad side. They've won a couple of games already this year. They cannot be as bad as they looked. It simply would not be possible. And as you said, Lee, they were a nice friendly club, so I hope they turn things around and they pick up a bit. Otherwise, we'll be playing them in the Southern League next season.
I mean, they've still got 7 points in the league. I wish we had that many. So, and they did beat Hereford not long ago. So it's not all bad for them, is it?
No. Attendance of 388. I thought it looked a bit more, actually, but nothing to write home about. But still,
did you hear us, Taz? We're behind the goal, mate. We were waving at you.
Our numbers, the old fogies I was standing with, I can't include myself in that, obviously. I was saying our numbers looked a bit light from what we really thought. We thought we were going to take a lot more, but the noise Yobs made behind the goal, yeah, pretty good.
It's all about quality, Mon Cherie.
It's
always about
quantity.
Yeah.
Right. Anything else to add to that?
I thought just take the positives and give Shaun Jeffers some chances and he'll put the ball away. It's reminiscent of maybe 2 years ago, was it, when the season where Ian Allinson got sacked, or maybe 3 years ago. It's time passing so quickly, where Shaun didn't really start firing, did he, till late September, early October. He had some early chances in the first few games, wasted them, but he got into his stride. And again, Shaun, especially that his second goal and our third on Saturday, was just classic Jeffers, wasn't it? And he never looked like missing from there. So hopefully, again, we can take that away, and in the coming weeks, see if he can hit the back of the net a little bit more.
Of course, one wouldn't say when we were having a dodgy run last year that Shaun got Nobby out of jail with a good run, and he's repeated the trick again this year. But just a coincidence.
That is exactly what you said this time last year. It's exactly what you said last time.
I would. Right, one or two things from that. A quick word with Michael Johnson before the game. He asked if we've been there before. Said no, we haven't. The club had never been there either. But he played there once for Hitchin Town. He said he'd rather not remember the score. Well, you're lucky, Michael. I found it. 14th of August 2019. 0-0 at the start of the game, which is very good. Attendance 320, a bit down on last Saturday. Final score: Needham Market 8, Hitchin Town 1.
Ooh. Did MJ?
I don't know
what happened to him then? Was he in goal? I mean,
I think he got man of the match. Luke Ingram, who scored a hat-trick in that game, he played on Saturday. And Adam Mills, who also played Saturday, scored in that game. Right, Shaun has now got 8 FA Cup goals. Here's some names for you. Puts him level with Rob Howe, Fancy Dan Greg Howe, and own goals.
His
next target on 9 is John Butterfield and Laurie Ryan. Well, Laurie Ryan got most of his in one game in the FA Cup. The top scorers are for us in the FA Cup, and Shaun's got a bit of a way to go. Of course, Billy Minter and Steve Clark on 25 each. And Steve Clark is the only player to score a hat-trick in both the FA Cup and FA Trophy for us. I was hoping Nobby would leave him on to try and get that hat-trick Saturday. But no, he took him off before the end.
Damn it.
Damn it, indeed. What do you make of a draw? A kind draw?
It could have been worse. Could have been a lot worse, has to be said. I think all of us, we have that perpetual fear as Northern City fans of, oh God, it's going to be Boreham Wood. Oh God, they've just appointed Luke Garrard. Or Howard Church, or not Dorking, they got knocked out, apologies. Or someone else. Someone else like that. You don't want that. So it's nice. And it's also, again, opportunity of going to a team that we don't really play very often, it's fair to say, in either Galston or Barking. So there you go. Not a bad draw.
Yes, Dorking Wanderers owner Mark White took it with his normal good grace in the post-match interview. The swear box was full up again. Barking, actually, we played them over 60 times. Once in the FA Cup, October 72. We scored through Dennis Gill and Peter McGillicuddy, but they scored twice in the last 3 minutes to win 3-2. Dennis Gill went on to have a decent career with Enfield, and Peter McGillicuddy, I know it's a bit before your time, Jake, I think he was in the Harlow Town side that knocked Leicester City out of the FA Cup. Galston, we haven't played competitively. We'll do this probably next week. 2 friendlies, 1996, 3-3 draw, Simon Martin, Fraser Higgs and Paul Clark. And 2 years later, Rob Howarth again and Gary Coulden. Galston actually playing at Great Yarmouth ground now. Yes. I saw a match there, a cup final there, late 80s, early 90s.
Of course you did.
One below wooden stand. It's a magnificent wooden stand. I don't know if it's still there. I suppose it is. and some portly centre half got sent off, and God knows who he's playing for, and God knows who he's playing against.
Isn't that the oldest stand in the world, apparently? Someone was telling me the other day. So
there's a stat. Oh,
yeah. Well, it might not be true. Might not be true, to be honest. But it's definitely still there. So, who do you want to play, Dave? Barking or Galston?
Oh, Galston, another seaside trip. Oh, I love it.
I've heard very rave reviews about Great Yarmouth.
Yeah, well, we went there once in December 27 in the Amateur Cup, drew 2-2. The crowd was 4,996. Just over 4,000 for the replay at Clarence Park a week later when we won 6-0.
There you go. I think it's worth mentioning that the replay for that game is tonight, so we'll know the result once the episode comes out. So we can't really say much more. I think the only thing worth saying, Barking are step 5, aren't they? And Galston are step 4. So the club, I think, when they saw that draw, I think the club would have thought, "We'll take this. This isn't bad at all."
For goodness sake, Jake. Essex Senior League, Barking, none of his step 28 or whatever, and Galston Town, Isthmian League North.
There you go.
There we go. There you go. Right, we've got a game.
Right? The magic of the cup. That's what we want, boys.
Yeah.
Right, we've got a game coming up on Saturday, and we were going off to another coast, down to Plainmoor at Devon. Who wants to kick that one off?
Same again, please. That'd be marvellous. We could do that.
Well, we won 3-0. We were expecting a much tougher game. Torquay, everyone expecting them to have an easy game. Instead, they were playing Bishops Cleeve. They got stuffed 3-0. It should have been a lot more looking at the highlights. Manager Paul Wooten wasn't happy. And you can imagine why. What an upset that was. And it comes on the back of a 2-0 league defeat for Torquay at Welling United.
It's fair to say it wasn't just Paul Wooten who was unhappy with that performance. Reading the response to Torquay fans, I think that went down. Quite a few of them quite openly saying it's the worst result in the club's history. A few of them saying it's the most embarrassing performance they've ever seen.
Was this when we beat them?
Yes, actually, yes. Down in January, February. That was
because they seem to be sort of saying that quite a lot over the last sort of 12 months or so.
Let's not anger them, Lee, please.
Yeah, you mentioned the last season, Lee, when we won 4-0.
Too bloody right, mate. That was one of the best results in our history.
Let alone performance. It was just a magical City performance. And I don't know who's manager here now, but it's not the bloke we've got now. And, we'll bring him back for that game. Anyway, but the Torquay side has changed somewhat since then. The team at Bishops Cleeve, only Bradley Ash was in the starting lineup against us and also last Saturday. The two of the subs, Ollie Tomlinson and Finley Krask, they also played against us. So we can't go by last season's match at all. They're not on a crest of a wave at the moment, but they did make a good start up until a recent hiccup. They're going to have Cody Cook coming back in. He's the main threat up front. Although that said, I think it's 6 players on 2 goals so far this season. So they like to spread it around a bit.
They do, but you're only as good as your last game, though, David. And it should be good, though, right?
I think
foregone conclusion.
Like you said, Dave, it was a summer of change, wasn't it, down at Plainmoor? Obviously, new owners came in. Neil Warnock's come involved, and hopefully he'll be there Saturday. We'll give him a wave.
He's still around? Is he still skulking around? Is he?
I think so. New manager, so Paul Wooten came from Truro, didn't he? So a lot of change there. He's brought in quite a few players he wants. And they say they've lost their last 2, but they do have 16 points. That's not a bad points tally at this point of the season, is it? I mean, again, I wish we had that.
We're getting there. We got one in our last league game. Yes, going to be fascinating, I think. Also in their squad, likely to be 38-year-old Dean Moxey. Tim Petty spotted this, which is unusual for him to be on the case. He scored the winner for Exeter City. You would have been there, Jake. You would have been there, Lee, in December 2006 in the rain at Clarence Park.
What a game. I have to say, for any newer fans, you've never seen any of the highlights. I think they're on YouTube, potentially. They're somewhere, or there's at least pictures somewhere of what Clarence Park looked like that day. And it was unbelievable.
Not a mad squirrel in sight. Well, only the ones in the trees, but they were absolutely conditioned. Jesus. I mean, it was Good times, though, I've got to say. And D Moxie, former teammate of Nobby in the Exeter's team as well. So
very good.
A little connection there. I only know that guy used to do the Exeter program back in the day. So, yeah.
Good. And in the Exeter side also, John Challoner, and on the bench was the somewhat since disgraced Patrick Adair.
Well, what names?
There we go. Do you think we're going to have good support there?
I don't know. It won't. I don't think it'll be as good as last year. I think it's fair to say. I think a lot of that comes from just we've not been on a good run, have we? Unfortunately, and it's some people saying this game has almost come too early in the season. Maybe it was a few months in with a bit more momentum. I think it would have been different. But yeah, I don't think we'll quite have this. We had brilliant support there last year. I know it wasn't a lot of numbers, but the noise they made was very, very good. It might not be the same, unfortunately.
Quality,
yeah, that's very true.
It was quality because at the time, Gary Johnson was their manager, wasn't he? And he was really struggling. And when about our third or fourth goal went in, while their supporters were calling for Johnson out, our lot brilliantly. Gary Johnson, 14 more years going on and on like that. And when our fourth one goes in this Saturday, you could imagine they'll be saying, our lot will be chanting, bring back Gary Johnson, won't they?
Oh.
It's a valid point you bring, Tabs, actually, because I think we need to sort of look at the away attendances. I mean, City have always they've on the whole travelled well, and they've always made decent noise wherever they've gone. I did expect a few more last Saturday for the Cup, I have to admit. And going to places like Torquay, especially on the run that we have, and form doesn't always, deter the likes of Jake and I and others. But if you're just umming and ahhing about it, it's a long way to go. And again, you talk about cost as well. It takes a lot to get down there.
Yeah.
I don't think we're going to take that many, but the people that do travel are going to make themselves known. Yeah, attendance is away from home. I think if we get on a run, if we start winning some games, obviously that'll go up. But it's really weird to sort of gauge how many Saints fans are going to follow the team now, given the start we've made, really.
Well, a club hardly goes over the top promoting away games, does it? It almost ignores them because all the income comes from the home games, and that's where their concern is. And, come on, push these supporters, coach. Don't just let them put a Twitter out somewhere. Put it on the website, give it a good push everywhere, and try and get as many as we can down there because it makes a great atmosphere, any away game. Talking of a Twitter, what's going wrong with it? The team lineups on Twitter didn't go on until 2:45 on Saturday. Used to be 2:15. It's outrageous. If there is any news about the match, it's coming about an hour before the game. Well, anybody's going to the game is there by then, so they don't get the news. And the Twitter during the game is so. It's shambolic. It's almost a case of whoever's got the news said, I've got the news. I'm smug. I can keep it to myself. You're not going to have it. And no, come on. Club's got to be open with its news and embrace supporters like we embrace supporters' comments on here.
I suppose the only comment in their defence, I guess, is the lack maybe of volunteers at the minute to do these roles. The Twitter feed, maybe especially for away games. So in those volunteers that are doing it, of course, we don't know what time
they were sitting in. They were sitting in the stand at 2:00 on Saturday, Jake.
Well, I can't comment. I wasn't there. Me and Lee were.
We were sitting in the bar at 2:00 on Saturday. To be honest with you,
but I do agree. It was quite annoying having to wait so long for the team news on Saturday. And I know other fans of similar positions and also away from the game, trying to follow the game on social media, were also quite put out by how late the news was. So hopefully that'll be something we can improve.
Right? Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, listen, they're a target, aren't they? The Saints sort of social media team, but ultimately they're volunteers. They're amateurs. They're not.
Come on.
I know, but it's not their gig, and
it's not their gig. Don't do it. Get somebody who wants to do it.
Okay, fine. That's a whole new argument. Well, they had some of those, but then they binned them off. So let's not go down there. But what I say, these fellas are amateurs. Just let them. I mean, they're obviously working their way sort of through it, and it will come good, I'm sure. And it's a pretty thankless task because there'll be someone somewhere really relying on that Twitter feed, and you're at the game. So I think it's you know, I know you try. I know what you're saying, and it does need improving. Of course, it does. But you know, do you really need to know the team at 2:15 rather than 2:45? I mean,
Well, I'm sure the press would. They would appreciate it.
yeah.
Jake would vouch for that. I mean, crikey, you did papers. I did the papers for 30 odd years, and the hang around of late and late and later. That's when mistakes happen. It just shouldn't happen. But clubs, FA Cup, I think you give the team sheet in. It's either an hour or 45 minutes before kick-off. So it's all done then. Pass that news on to the people who are paying to be at the game.
But when you were writing for The Observer and I was writing for The Heart Sad, what I used to sort of do is I used to roll out of the pub about 10 to 3, come and see you, tug on like your sleeve. Mr. Tavener, what are the team news, please? And then I'd get absolutely battered, phone you up on the Monday, get all the scorers and the thing, and then I'd write my report, mate. That's how it should be done.
Somewhere in that is an element of truth. I didn't spot it.
Oh, dear.
Anyway, what? Right, player news. Some bits. Ben Smith and what's his name, Lewis Michio, I believe, are a good 4 weeks away from returning. And but Ken Charles, had there been a replay, they thought he was going to be fit, so he should be fit to certainly be in the squad on Saturday.
Yeah, and we saw Tafaro Moore return, didn't we? A bit more, featured a bit more in the last 2 games, which is good to see. So wonder if he might come in potentially for a start at Torquay. If Ken Charles is fit, I hope it is not in place of Shaun Jeffers. I'm sure it won't be. But it's good that it gives Nobby a few more options now going into these games. But still those concerns, those players, especially what Phil Chinedu was, it was an initial 28-day loan, wasn't it, that we signed him on? So hopefully we can extend that, because I know he didn't have the greatest game on Saturday, but he did get an assist, and I thought he's looked quite good in the last few weeks. And if Mikio is out for another month at least, maybe longer, we're going to need someone like Chinedu, aren't we, around for a little bit longer to see, just as a bit of cover, and have someone that can actually naturally play in that role.
Yeah, getting news about these injured players, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible. And of course, apparently, Sam Meeks was injured, which is why he wasn't in the squad on Saturday. But anybody got news on it? I've not got a clue what the problem is.
No, we heard the same, didn't we, Lee, before the game, that apparently Sam Meeks was now injured, so unable to feature. So no word on how serious it is.
Terrible, isn't it? Anyway, just looking at our predictions to start the season. Jake, you didn't have Torquay in the top 5. Lee and I did. It'd be interesting to see what we think of it after Saturday's game.
Well,
speaking of predictions, sorry to back into it. Tabs, what were the predictions for last week, mate? How do we get on?
Computer's gone down again.
Has it?
Well done, Lee. Well done. 3-0.
There we go. Thank you, Amsterdam. Good night.
Even a broken clock.
Do you realise that's the first one any of us have got right this season? We've got correct outcomes, to be fair, but not results.
We're too positive.
We are the Needham town of predictions.
Hey.
No, Needham Market. Oh, sorry.
Deary me, Dave. I'd say, Torquay weren't in my top 5, and they won't be after we beat them on Saturday. They'll be outside the top 5. So let's not worry about that.
Them is fighting words, Jacob.
There's some action going on up the road, Ruffins Road. Sacked their manager, Ross Jenkins, brought back Luke Garrard. Any surprises there?
They do say don't go back. It's not for everyone, obviously. A little, if I'm honest. I think Danny Hunter's probably running out of managers who wants to actually work for him. So it's interesting. I mean, I know that Luke Garrard, he was doing some scouting. He was just, but on the whole, he wants to get back into management, and okay, the opportunity arose. Ross Jenkins probably didn't get the run that he deserved. I mean, Bournemouth weren't great, but they weren't terrible. They've got some good players there. They've got decent sized budget, and they've got potential. But I think when you get a very impatient owner who's often been sort of dining out on success over the last sort of few years when they were in the conference, and he wants to get back up there pretty sort of sharpish, and you can't blame him for that. You know, he's putting a hell of a lot of money in that club. And given the amount of success they have had over the past sort of 5-6 years, you can't really expect him to want to be skulking around in this level for sort of too much longer. So, going back though, it's discuss.
Yeah, we've had thinking about it, 4 managers who have come back twice. Steve Castle had a dreadful first spell, even worse second spell. Nobby, well, it's no two ways about it. It's a dreadful second spell. His win ratio is now the only one. Steve Castle's the only one with a lower win ratio from those managers who have come back. And the top 2, Sid Prosser came back. His second spell never really worked. Big bust up with the club at the end, and he went. The only one who was a success both times, John Mitchell.
Yeah.
I suppose.
I think, go on.
I was say Luke Garrard was so embedded in that club, wasn't he? By the end of his time there, he was almost a heartbeat of it, along with Danny Hunter, and their working relationship was so good. I mean, Luke had been there ever since Ian left, wasn't he? How many? 2015, 2016? So long now, and I think it's a surprise, but also not a surprise. And I think it's a shame for Ross Jenkins. I mean, the amount of Boreham Wood fans that actually seemed quite annoyed on social media about the news was actually quite a surprise. But when that came in, it almost felt inevitable, didn't it? And you have to say that Luke Garrard will be given resources and backing by the owner there to try and get them back up at the first opportunity. So you suspect it probably will work. Will it be automatically? Maybe not. Will it be through the playoffs? Potentially. But it'll be interesting to see what he does there, because they didn't make massive changes to their squad either. So, but it's always a gamble, isn't it?
It is a gamble, because the thing is, as well, though, fellas, when things aren't going well, you always sort of resort to type. You know, you resort to what you know, and that's when you sort of go backwards a little bit by sort of getting, you know, the tried and tested, that comfortable appointment. When things aren't going well, that's probably where some clubs are a little bit more brave in their decision about who they appoint, rather than sort of going backwards a little bit. I'm not saying Garrard's appointment is a backward step, but I just don't know whether it's going to have the same effect this time around, as proven here with Nobby as well, appointing case.
I haven't seen Boreham Wood since we played them in that cup tie, 3 years ago now, whatever it was. But people who have been in touch with me suggest it's going to be a pretty direct style again under Garrard, which is interesting, because quite a few clubs in the south seem to be trying to play the passing game. We're now doing it further up the pitch, which is good to see, and we're maybe starting to see the rewards of that. So they're still full-time, aren't they, Wood? Johnny Goddard went there to be full-time, so they got that going for them. Change of manager, I still fancy them to be very much up there, and where they are now will be banished from memory.
It's fair to say Ross Jenkins' style of football wasn't exactly direct. It was very passing orientated. That is why they brought in someone like Johnny Goddard, who's going to be at the heart of that in sort of the 10 role. So it'll be interesting to see how that works now. It's going to be a massive change back to that more direct football. And it'll be interesting if it works at this level. We know it can work in the National League, but then having said that, they did go down last season. So, yeah, it'll be a big change, and it might not work instantly, but when you've got the resources that Boreham Wood do have and they're willing to spend, there's at least that good 50-50 chance that even if they don't play spectacularly, they could easily still get a top 7 finish.
All right. I've got one thing to finish on. Don't know if you two have got anything. Andy Hammond's been in touch with news about Martin Bagley, former City goalkeeper from the early 90s. He only played 16 games for us. Most of his career was with Cheshire United, 600 games for them. He passed away in August at the age of 64. So sympathy goes out to Martin's family.
Yeah. On that sad note, do we have to do the predictions? Sorry, Dave. I know you like doing them. Feels a bit out of place now.
Yeah, maybe finish with that sort of stuff at the end. So otherwise, we're going to make us look like a couple of Muppets. Jesus, okay, fine. Go on, Jacob.
Well, we go there as the underdogs, which I think might suit us, and hopefully, no, and hopefully we can have a bit of something there. I'm going to go for a 2-2. 3 points on the board.
Goals galore. Come on, Lee. You always get these right.
I'm going to go for, unfortunately, a plucky 2-1 defeat.
Ah, shameful. Absolutely shameful.
Sorry, David.
No, 2-0 defeat.
I know we talked about this game, but hopefully we can get something, right? We need to get something.
Well, we do. As you mentioned, Jake, earlier, there is a bit of a gap emerging between us and Salisbury in 20th place. 6 points already after only 8 games.
September, boys. It's September.
Yeah, plenty of time. Oh, no one's saying it, Lee, but just to be that far behind, you wouldn't expect anybody to be that far adrift by now. Not even Enfield Town.
No. And Salisbury are playing Chippenham, so that's a big game for those two. And then who do we play in 2 weeks' time? Salisbury. So,
yeah,
there you go. Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay.
Oh, brilliant. Well, on that nice and disjointed finish, Podful Saints on Twitter, email in the description below. We love your comments and views and everything you have to say. If you agree or disagree, let us know. And we will speak to you again next week after the trip to Torquay. Thank you all very much for watching and see you soon. Come on, you Saints.